Hey everyone, my name is Omar Aguilar, and today I'm walking you through the Westside Barbell Conjugate method, which is one of the most influential systems created. This method was developed by Louis Simmons, a coach who built the entire system on the training philosophy of the idea that weak things break. Westside has produced one of the strongest lifters of all time, including Louis. But what's really interesting and resonate with me is how adaptable this system is for athletes and not just for power lifters as it's believed. As a strength coach myself, I'm always looking for the system that transfer to the field, keeps athletes engaged, and allow consistent progress even during long seasons. The conjugate method is one of the few training models that checks all of those boxes for me. In this presentation, I'll explain how it works, the science behind its key components, how I've used the system with my own athletes, and why it continues to be my go to system for developing performance for my athletes and for myself. So, the origins of the conjugate method actually come from two of the strongest weightlifting systems in history, which are the Bulgarian system and the Soviet system. From the Bulgarians, Luke took the idea of mass effort training, which is basically lifting heavy, lifting with intent, and training the nervous system to handle mass strain. Those maths attempts aren't random. They're a way to develop absolute strength at the highest level. So from the Soviets, what did Louis got? He pulls speed strength work, exercise rotation, and the structured conjugate sequence that the Dynamo Club use. This idea of rotating exercises to avoid accommodations is one of the pillars of the conjugate system. And then Westside added its own twist by incorporating a lot of bodybuilding style accessory work and general preparatory phases. So the conjugate method is all about developing multiple qualities at the same time. So basically not just waiting months to train strength or speed or vice versa. With conjugate, it's believed you will build strength, speed, hypertrophy, power, and work capacity, and all can be done in the same week. This is huge for high level athletes that are looking for to maximize. The reason this works is because Westside avoids something called accommodation. When you use the same lift for too long, the nervous system adapts and progresses and basically slows down. So, as I was reading, Louis said, progressive gradual overload is a then extreme, meaning that you can't just add 5, 10, 15 pounds every week forever in a linear way. So instead, conjugate constantly rotated exercises. They use different kind of bars, they use different kind of stances, and they use different kind of range of motions. So the athlete is always adapting and never plateauing. So there are six main pillars of the conjugate system broken down in two categories. So the category one will include the three method. The three method include max effort method, dynamic effort method, and repetition effort method. So the max effort, this is where absolute strength is built. So we push 1 to 3 RM variation, not to grind the athlete into the ground or to deplete him, but to teach the nervous system to produce high safely force and consistent. So the dynamic effort, this is where the speed work comes from. Lighter loads, but moves as fast as possible. It builds rate of force development, which is one of the biggest indicators of field performance, according to research. Repetition effort. This is where hypertrophy lives in. So we basically perform high volume, high reps, and a ton of accessory work, which are included on each. It keeps joints healthy and builds a muscle that supports speed and power. So the category two, the system structure. So as Louis calls it, the special strength training concepts. So it includes exercise rotation, which it rotates weekly to avoid stagnation, accommodating resistance, which includes bands and change, which help accelerate athletes through the full range of motion and address certain sticking points. Weak point training, this is the Westside Barbell secret sauce. They identify what is holding you back, and they hammer those areas. For the athlete, this is gold because instead of generic barbell work, you're addressing the true weakness of each individual. So Westside typically uses a 4 day training split. For day one, um, they do max effort plus repeated effort method. Day two, they do effort upper with repeated method effort. Day three, dynamic effort lower plus repeated method effort. And for day four, dynamic effort upper plus repeated method effort. Every day trains a different quality. And after the main lift, the ancestors hit hypertrophy, work capacity, and weak points. The beauty of this weekly structure is how flexible it is. For athletes, travel games and fatigues are always changing, and conjugate is very easy to modify. You can keep the system intact while adjusting the volume and intensity. And because the main lifts rotate each week, the athletes will definitely stay engaged. So athletes benefit. A big misconception is that the conjugate is only for power lifters, but the benefits actually make it one of the best systems for athletes. So one of the benefits are higher rate of force development, which carries into sprint speeds, jumps, and rotational power movements. Extra multiple joint angles through variation, reduce overuse injuries because the movement patterns change, better work capacity from general preparative phases and accessory volume, and they obviously keep the athletes mentally fresh because variation builds engagement within athletes. Fits in season and off season perfect, and you can manage strain and volume. Westside Barbell says that strength is measured by time, which means how fast you can produce force. And that's exactly what most sports demands. So, one thing to highlight clearly in the available evidence that there are no peer-reviewed studies where the full Westside conjugate method is tested as an independent training program. But many of its components have strong scientific support, which includes speed strength work is well supported, heavy singles increase neural drive, variation prevents stagnation, band change increase peak force and power. So if I were, in my opinion, if I were to design, here's what I focus on. So I'll do a population of professional baseball hitters, MLB or minor league hitters. So I will intervene. I will do. I will compare the conjugate versus daily undulatory periodization for around 10 to 12 weeks. So some key performance outcomes that I will observe are bat, swing velocity, and exit velocity. I would use rotational med ball power. I will use current movement jumps with force deck to see peak power and rate of force development. I will evaluate lower body strength, and I will definitely target on arm carry strength metrics. So the hypothesis that I would use, it was it will be that conjugate athletes will show great improvement in rotational power and swing velocity, thanks to a combination of mass strength, speed strength, and consistent variation weekly. A study like this could finally quantify what many strength coaches observe in real life. So my experience with the system. So now from my coaching perspective, I've used the conjugate system personally. I currently use modified versions with my athletes in professional baseball. So some of the things that I consistently seen within my athlete, as in better acceleration, higher bar speeds when we're using velocity-based training, a stronger rotational med ball output, athletes stay engaged because everything always changes and it's adjustment for in-season fatigue. The system works really well. The only downside is that for beginners, they may need simple variations when they start. But once they learn the structure, they progress extremely well. So conjugate with athlete. For me as a baseball coach, conjugate shares every box I need. It develops strength, speed, power, and it can be scaled up depending on travel recovery and game schedules. Keeps my athletes engaged and keeps them healthy, and most important, the performance metrics back her up. So these are my references. So as I mentioned, one of the things that is very interesting is that Versa system hasn't been directly tested in the literature. To close it out, I'll leave you one of Louis' most powerful quotes. there is no finish line. There's only work to do, and this is the mindset that I want to have with my players.